What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Ron back with DFS Greatness. I'm here to give you great lineups, great picks. Let's have a great night, man. Lovely 5-game slate for this Christmas. Like the page, subscribe to my channel. If you feel like this video is helpful for you, just hit that subscribe button and like the page, man. It means a lot to me. At the point guard position, you got James Harden, 11,600. Projected gets 61.9 fantasy points, 5.3 times value. Last 3 games, 50 for 70 and 51 fantasy points. He's averaging 62.7 fantasy point with a 38% usage rate. Last 3 games going against Golden State, 65, 61, and 59 fantasy points. That's crazy. And he got a 66% chance of hitting value tonight. He's $100 more on Fanduel, so he probably a little better DK play. You want to go that direction. But Golden State is terrible. Look like they're going to play in like a little scrimmage against the G League. Sitting at 226.5 total. Yes, James Harden, man. And also, defense is ranked. They rate 24th at the point guard position, and overall at 20th. So he's in the smash spot. I definitely like him a lot. Do not see the wrong of playing him, James Harden. And another guy I like at the point guard position also. It's one of my favorite players. I like Kyle Lowry. At 8,500, projected to get 43.2 fantasy points. That's 5 times value. He's 500 cheaper on Fanduel. So he's got a 23% usage rate. Last 3 games going against Boston, averaging 38 fantasy points. Last 3 games in general, averaging 41 fantasy points. So Kyle Lowry, man, the team's pretty hurt right now. He's been playing fantastic, helping these boys win basketball games. So I definitely like Kyle Lowry. And another point guard I like also is Ben Simmons. 8,100, projected at 40 fantasy points is 5 times value. Last 3 games, averaging 40.2 fantasy points with a 20% usage rate. I like him a lot. He's $100 cheaper on Fanduel, but I think he's in a good matchup going against Milwaukee, sitting at 220.5 total. I like Ben Simmons a lot. And at another point guard that I'm going to have a lot of exposure to in GPP lineups is my guy Kemba Walker, man. A lot of people doubted him going Boston will make a difference compared to Kyrie Irving, but he's been playing fantastic, man. Sit 8,000, projected to get 40 fantasy points is 5 times value. He's $400 cheap on Fanduel. Last 3 games, averaging 39.4 fantasy points with a 29% usage rate. But 3 games against Toronto this year, he's averaging 49 fantasy points. He had a 62% chance of hit value tonight. So I definitely like Kemba Walker for my point guard. And also, you got D'Angelo Russell at 7,400. Going against Houston, they don't play a lot of defense, but he's $800 more on Fanduel at the price tag 7,400. Projected to get 38 fantasy points, 5 times value. Last 3 games, with he's sitting at with a 32% usage rate. I do like him a lot. In the last games in general, he's averaging 38.2 fantasy points a game. As a whole, their defense is 21st, so I think D'Angelo Russell should be able to put up buckets against the Houston Rockets. And another guy I like too is Jamal Murray, going against New Orleans, 30th at the point guard position as a team. They're 26th ranked. New Orleans. He's $500 more on Fanduel at the 71 price tag. Projected to get 34 fantasy points is 5x. Last 3 games, averaging 33.2 fantasy points. And getting around 26% usage rate. Going against New Orleans, he's averaging 30 fantasy points altogether. So I definitely like him. I do not see the wrong of playing him. I just, at the end of the day, I tell a lot of people you cannot predict blowouts. A lot of people say, oh, I'm not touching that. It's going to be a blowout. You just don't never know how the game going to go. And a point guard, I always say you can't sue Lou Williams, averaging 33.4 fantasy points last 3 games. With 29% usage rate, the price tag $5,800. Projected to get 30 fantasy points tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's $700 cheap on on Fanduel, so he's a better DK play. Got a 73% chance of hitting value tonight, so definitely like Lou Williams if you want to go that direction with him. And another guy I like too at 5,600, Alex Burks. As a whole, Houston 21st at the position, 30th. So he's $100 cheap, $100 more on Fanduel at 5,600. Projected to get 29 fantasy points is 5 times value. I like to play. Last 3 games, averaging 29.4 fantasy points. He kind of been on the fair tear, man. 49, 40, 35 fantasy points. He has a 54% chance of hitting value tonight. Alex Burks, I definitely like him a lot. Do not sit the wrong with playing him. I think he's a fantastic matchup. And if I did go cheap at point guard, I will go definitely have some exposure to George Hill at 4,300. He's averaging right now 21.1 fantasy points a game. He's $200 cheap on Fanduel. He's projected 21 fantasy points tonight, 5 times value. Last 3 games, 37, 17, 27. He got a 55% chance to hit value. His minutes averaging around 20 fantasy minutes a game. Definitely like him. But the point guard position, I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm gonna have some exposure to Kemba Walker. I think he's in a smash spot today. At the shooting guard position, you got James Harden, the top dog, D'Angelo Russell, already mentioned Jamal Murray. The guys I told you guys are in a fantastic matchup. I definitely like another guy, Jaylen Brown at 6,800. Projected getting 35% of fantasy points a game. Is 5x. He's $100 cheap on FanDuel. As a position, they rank 23rd. Toronto. So last 3 games going against Toronto, he's averaging 32 fantasy points a game. And last 3 games in general, averaging 35 fantasy points. So and he has a 67% chance to hit value. So I definitely like Jaylen Brown. I know Gordon Hayward is coming back, but at the end of the day, Jaylen Brown's averaging 34 minutes. Minutes is there, so I don't see the wrong with playing him. And another guy that I like I told you earlier, you got Alex Burks at 5,600. If you want to pivot down and save a little cap, you got Damian Lee going against Houston, 5,400, getting around, averaging around 20.8 fantasy points a game. Last 3 games, playing pretty good. With 21% usage rate. His minutes getting around averaging 24 minutes a game. I think he's $1,000 cheap on FanDuel. He's probably a way better play than FanDuel than DraftKings at the 54 price tag. That's a pretty good price for him. And I think that's a good price for him right there, man. If you want to go that direction, and you always got a guy like Wesley Matthews at 4,000. He's projected to get 15 fantasy points a game. He's averaging around 15.5 fantasy points a game, getting around 24 minutes a game. That's a guy, so he always a dark thrower. I sometimes play Wesley Matthews in a lot of my lineups because he's cheap and the minutes is there. He get minutes, so at the end of the day, you're looking for minutes and you're looking for fantasy points. That's the object of the game. So at the shooting guard, I'm going to have some exposure. I'm going to be cheap. I'm going to get Alex Burks. And at the small forward position, it's a lot of ways you can go. You got the top dog, Giannis Antetokounmpo, going against Philadelphia, man. If against Philadelphia, he's averaging 85 fantasy points. That's crazy. Last 3 games, 83, 91, and 80. 77% chance to hit value tonight. He's $100 cheap on FanDuel. He's projected to get 59.5 fantasy points. That's 5 times value. Average around 61.1 fantasy points a game, getting around 31 minutes a game. 38% usage rate. I like the price tag for him a lot. Definitely gonna have some exposure to Giannis. Also, you got the King James, averaging around 55.2 fantasy points a game. He didn't play last game, but he's playing today. 56.4 fantasy projected today. That's 5 times value. He's $100 cheap on FanDuel. He had a 72% chance to hit value. Last 3 games going against the Clippers, he's averaging 46 fantasy points. And you got Kawhi Leonard. I call him the glove. Averaging around 47.4 fantasy points a game. Projected 46.8 fantasy points. That's 5x, and he's $300 more on FanDuel, so he's a better DraftKings play. He's 74% chance to hit value. And a guy I think he's too cheap at 7,900. I think they might have made an error. Paul George, last 3 games averaging around 41 fantasy points a game. He got a 57% chance to hit value tonight with a 32% usage rate. He's $100 more on FanDuel. Projected to get 41 fantasy points is 5 times value. So I definitely like Paul George with a cheap price tag. And Jason Tatum, last 3 games going against Toronto, averaging 35 fantasy points a game. Last game he played him, dropped 50 piece. Last 3 games, Jason Tatum, man, 68, 42, and 37, is averaging 39.5 fantasy points a game. He's 500 cheap on FanDuel. So if I'm on FanDuel, I'll go play Jason Tatum. I'm at 7,800 on DraftKings. So I like that price tag. FanDuel better. And another guy, you want to go to, you always get Tobias Harris, man. I always play fantastic. He's averaging 34 fantasy points a game going against Milwaukee. Last 3 games in general, averaging 36 fantasy points a game at 6,700. He's projected 35 fantasy points as 5x. He's $100 more on Fanduel. If you want to go that direction, playing him, do not see anything wrong with playing this guy. He's been playing pretty good. He's a stud basketball player. And another guy, if I'm trying to figure out if I did go cheaper, he's been in a lot of, let me see, I mentioned Damian Lee, Hollis Jefferson. This guy right here, man, I do not see him wrong with playing him for the price tag, $5,300. He's $1,200 cheap on Fanduel. So if I'm gonna play a lineup, I play him on Fanduel. Last 3 games, averaging 20 fantasy points a game with an 18% usage rate, getting around 20 minutes a game. I like him a lot, man. 5,300, 22 projected, 4x. Definitely like Hollis Jefferson if you want to go that cheap. And if I'm gonna go ahead and lock Giannis in, and at the power forward position. Power forward position, you got a lot of good options. Like I told you earlier, you got Giannis, Siakam, you got Leonard, Jason Tatum. It's a big smash spot, man. But I'm gonna be value at that position. There's some guys like Derek Favors, 5,700. I like him a lot. He's coming back. He been balling since he's been back. I like him a lot. If you want to go with Derek Favors, 5,700. Same price on FanDuel. The projected to get 25.8 fantasy points a game, 5 times value. Last 3 games, averaging 24 fantasy points a game. I like him a lot. Derek Favors, if you want to go that direction with him. And I think Montrezl Harrell is too cheap at the price tag. Do not see wrong playing Montrezl Harrell, 5,500. Projected to get 33 fantasy points a game. At 6 times value. Same price on DraftKings and Fanduel. That's pretty crazy. He got a 72% chance to hit value with 25% usage rate. Last 3 games going against LA, he's averaging 34 fantasy points a game. I like Montrezl Harrell. And I definitely like another guy I like too is Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap going against New Orleans, 26 overall, 26 against the power forward. He's $400 more on FanDuel at 4,600. Projected 25.2 fantasy points a game. That's 5.5 times value. Last 3 games, averaging 25.3 fantasy points a game, getting around 25 minutes a game. He has a 67% chance to hit value. That's pretty cheap. I like the price tag for him at 4,400. PJ Tucker, another splash spot. He's projected getting 25.7 fantasy points, 5.8 times value. He's $400 more on FanDuel. Last 3 games, 30, 14, 35. Averaging around 25 points a game. Last 3 games going against Golden State, averaging 37 fantasy points a game. So PJ Tucker in the smash spot. If you want to go cheaper and save some money, PJ Tucker in a fantastic spot. That's a guy I definitely have some exposure to if you want to go that direction with him. So probably going to have a little PJ Tucker in there. And at the center position, it's like a lot of good options center. You got Anthony Davis, a top dog at 10,100. At 54 projected tonight, that's 5 times value. Last 3 games going against going against Clippers, he's averaging 64 fantasy points a game, 51, 82, and 59. That's insane. He has a 75% chance to hit value, 31% usage rate. He's averaging 52.8 fantasy points a game. He's $600 more on FanDuel. I think it's a good matchup, man, because the Clippers have struggled against centers all year. So Anthony Davis in the smash spot. He's not necessarily a center anymore, play power forward, but he's down there in the paint. So I definitely like him also. And you got Joel Embiid, 9,800. He's $100 more on FanDuel. He's projected getting 48.8 fantasy points a game, 5 times value. Last 3 games, averaging 48.4 fantasy points a game with a 32% usage rate. He got a 58% chance to hit value. Last 3 games going against Milwaukee, 83, 79, 70. Crazy playing video game numbers. I definitely like him. Do not see wrong with playing that guy. I think he's in a smash spot if you want to go that direction with him. And you still got Clint Capella. I'm not really a fan. I'm not really going to have that much exposure to that game because it's probably going to get ugly. But if you could go Clint Capella, he's there. He's averaging 35 fantasy points a game against Golden State. But Golden State has been getting killed lately. And Al Horford at 6,000 going against going against Milwaukee. They're 23rd against the center position. He's projecting 30 fantasy points a game. That's 5 times value. He's averaging 31.6 fantasy points a game. He got a 64% chance to hit value, so definitely like Al Horford. You want to go the direction. And cheap guys mentioned Montrezl Harrell, Derek Favors. Put them guys in your lineup to save some cap. And another guy that I do like too is Brook Lopez at 5,000. He's $100 cheap on Fanduel. He's projected to get 25.6 fantasy points a game, 5 times value, with a 16% usage rate. Last 3 games, averaging 29 fantasy points against Philadelphia. In the last 3 games in general, averaging 25.3 fantasy points a game. Definitely like Brook Lopez to be in your lineup. The guy's pretty good. Yeah, man. Like I mentioned, I'm probably gonna have Brook Lopez, and I have a lot of cap left to play with, man. See, really, if you want to go fade Giannis, like I told you, I definitely like Paul George at the 7,900 price tag. So you can open up a lot of space for you. You want to go get Joel Embiid in a smash spot. You still have like a little cap to play with. I just feel like today you can go balance approaches, whatever you want to do. Have a lot of exposure to late games. I'm not gonna have a lot of exposure in that Denver and Pelican game because just don't ever know. But at the end of the day, that's why we play the game. You can't predict blowouts, but you want to have a good mindset on good plays and good people to play, though, man. At the end of the day, man, it's your boy Ron back with DFS Greatness. This is my first NBA video this year. Been kind of, a lot been going on, but, I have a little free time now, so I'm dropping videos for NBA. I got a NFL video coming out soon. It's Christmas, but, I have time to spend with my family and everything. I should have some time to free up later on and drop the football video for this Week 17 slate. Like the page, subscribe to my channel if you like this video helpful. Just hit the notification, man. You can follow me on at DFS Greatness on Twitter and just hit your boy up, man. In the comment section, just write a comment, your favorite plays you think will help you at the end of the day, man. Until next time, I'm out. Good luck, everyone. Merry Christmas, and cash out. Let's get to the money.